Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. We are live on YouTube. Hello once again and welcome to Focus on Liberia. We are live on YouTube and we want you to please join us to Focus on Liberia. Join us right now on Focus on Liberia. We are live on YouTube with our election day coverage. Live on. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I want to say welcome to Focus on Liberia. Our topic tonight, Liberian Americans in the U.S. midterm elections 2018. And we have fellow Liberian Americans that are running different races in the elections. And so we're going to have a show tonight with our guests, those that are running for some races in the U.S. elections. So I call on my co-host, Danielle Nonkos-Koshar, to take it away from here. Danielle?
Thanks, Dennis. Good evening, everyone. And once again, welcome to Focus on Liberia. As Dennis said, we have two guests tonight. The first is Mr. Cizi Goya. His area of expertise is education, and his current employer is the Brooklyn Center School District. He received his undergraduate education from Texas Tech. He studied mathematics and electrical engineering. His graduate education was at the Stephen F. Austin State University, where he studied mathematics and education. Where he studied mathematics, and he received another graduate degree from Augsburg University, which is in education. He is the chairman of the math department at Brooklyn Center High School STEAM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics. He is the chairman of the relicensure committee of the Brooklyn Center School District. He's a member of the QComp board of the Brooklyn Center School District. He's also a member of the Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board for the state of Minnesota. He is also a math item writer for the SAT. And for those of you outside of the US, the SAT is the test you take after high school or while in high school, and those scores are used to apply to colleges. He's also a math item writer and reviewer for AccuPlacer. He is the former co-chairman of the Organization of Liberians in Minnesota, and he is currently the national vice president of the Federation of LOFA Associations in the Americas. And he is married to Teresa Goya. So we say welcome to Mr. Goya. Thanks for being here.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
Yes. And next up, we have Mr. Winfred Russell. He has substantial experience in public service and working to improve the lives of Liberian immigrants and all marginalized people in Minnesota. He served 4 years as Brooklyn Park Planning Commissioner, 3 years on the Community Advisory Council of the Metropolitan Council in St. Paul. He had 2 years on the Hennepin County Library Board and 1 year on the Brooklyn Park Stable Neighborhood Action Plan, a smart growth and sustainable development task force. He has taught at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, Century College, North Hennepin Community College, and was the founding director of the Center for Multicultural Services at Normandale College, where he recruited, retained, and advised thousands of students. Under his leadership, Normandale was one of the first colleges in the state to implement a tuition payment plan for undocumented students. With extensive knowledge of public health, wellness, and infectious disease prevention, Winfred was one of many Liberian Americans who heeded President Obama's call to fight the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. He He served as Program Operations Manager and Ebola Response Manager, respectively, managing a $7.9 million USAID-funded Ebola response project and led an international health team to prevent Ebola from spreading globally. He and his team spent nearly 2 years in Southeast Liberia. So, Mr. Russell, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure.
Dennis, back to you.
We have a couple of Liberian Americans that are contesting in the U.S. elections. One of those is Mr. Sise Goya, who's running for the Osio District 279. That's the Osio District School Board. That's in Minnesota. Also, we have Mr. Winfred Russell. He's running as a councilman on the city council, and also in Brooklyn Park, that's Minnesota. We have another person, Mark Elliott. He's running to be mayor of Brooklyn Center. And then we have another lady who's also running along with Mr. Goya in the Osio School District. That's Maimon Jigle, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Quigley. So, gentlemen, once again, welcome to Focus on Liberia. It's our pleasure having you. These things don't happen quite often, so we are excited to have you. So let me start with you, Mr. Goya. Tell us, just give us a brief gist, give us a gist of who you are and why you are running, and what you are running for.
All right. Well, so I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Sise Goya. I am a math teacher. I've been teaching mathematics in the high school for the last 7 to 8 years now. Brooklyn Center, my current employer, I've been there the last 7 years. I have an education degree, I have a math degree, I have an engineering degree. So what drove me to leave money-making engineering to come down to the classroom is just because I saw a need. I saw a need in my community when I tutor kids. I saw the gap in communication. I saw the gap when it came to achievement for our students of color, for our poor students, and for our immigrant students. And I felt like just tutoring at home, 1 or 2 kids was not going to be enough. And I felt like sitting at home and complaining was not going to do it. And so I decided to get back, go back to school, get an education degree, and get in the classroom. So in a nutshell, that's who I am. I see a need, and I step up to fix that need. It's the same need we see in Osio right now. We have an east and west divide that is not necessary. And so in a nutshell, that's who I am. I am a community advocate. I've always been there to do community work and to advocate on behalf of the less fortunate. And so I'm a math teacher. I see the issues, I know the issues, and I think it makes sense to have a math teacher on the Board of Education.
Mr. Russell, why are you running? And basically, give us that campaign page. Who are you?
I have been actively involved in improving the lives of people in Minnesota, primarily Brooklyn Park, which constitute the northwest suburbs of the larger metropolitan area. So I've been working across the board, so not only with African immigrants, but all marginalized people trying to improve their lives. I have a 15-year experience of living and working in Brooklyn Park, serving on a number of task forces and commissions and all of that, helping to bring some new ideas, some different ways of doing things. And I think with my experience and my track record, and understanding the issues and knowing the needs of our people, many of the unmet needs that we have in our community, I think I have the right set of tools and skills to make a difference in Brooklyn Park and to improve the lives of all of our people in Brooklyn Park. So that's part of why I'm running, and that's what motivated me to jump in this race and try to see if we can provide representation and provide much needed services to our people.
Thank you. And check your audio. I don't know, is the audio clear to you then, or Danielle?
No, it might be the headphones. I'm not sure if it's the headphones or the network, but it is a bit choppy.
Okay, a little choppy. So, okay, maybe I can take it off and see if I can use computer headphones. I'm using the headphones. I'm using the external headphones. Can you hear me better now? Is it?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, this is better. So maybe there was a headphone then.
All right. So just if you can repeat just a synopsis of that again.
Well, I've lived in Brooklyn Park now for 15 years. I've been actively involved working on the planning commission. I've worked in the county, working on the library board, working across groups and in different communities, working to improve people's lives. There are a lot of opportunities that we have here in Brooklyn Park. There are a lot of challenges we have too, and I think we need to have people who understand the issue, who have lived experiences with some of these issues, and come to the table and try to provide solution. And I think I'm that person. My passion is service. I've worked in the social service and type environment, in public health, community health, in education, in trying to improve people's lives. So it's just that simple. And I have the track record of doing that and of delivering successful programs and initiatives that will help to move marginalized people forward.
If you're just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing the midterm elections, and we have some Liberians that are running for elected offices that include Mr. Sisi Goya for the OCO School Board, Mr. Winfred Russell for the City Council of Brooklyn Park, and Mr. Mark Elliott, who's also running for mayor of Brooklyn Center. He's not here tonight. And also Maimon Quickly.
All right, Mr. Goya, can you please explain to our viewers exactly the district that you're running in? What is the location, the geography, what's the demographics like? Just tell us more about your district that you're running in.
Absolutely. Osceola School District is the fifth largest school district in the state of Minnesota. About the most diverse when it comes to student population and the makeup of its residents. Osceola School District covers 8 cities. So I'm running the race of 8 different city mayors, so to speak. So it's a pretty large district, but I'm excited about it because Osceola School District happens to be the single large school district that has the largest population of Liberian and African immigrant kids in the entire nation. And besides that, like I said, it's a very diverse population of students. We're in Minnesota. We cover a huge chunk of Brooklyn Park, a huge chunk of Maple Grove, out of Osceola, parts of Brooklyn Center, Rogers, like I said, 8 cities. So it's a very huge landscape we have to cover, but we're excited about it because we know what it takes when you talk to people and you get people excited.
Mr. Russell, same question for you. Can you explain your district and the demographics in that area?
Yeah, thanks. Brooklyn Park is the 6th largest city in the state of Minnesota. It has a population of about 80,000 people, 56% of whom are people of color. Liberians represent the largest one of the largest concentration of minority groups in the city. And Liberians represent, Liberians in Brooklyn Park are the largest concentration of Liberians outside of Liberia. So it doesn't mean necessarily, I mean, people argue back and forth that we have, a lot of people in Philadelphia or in Rhode Island and other places. But what I'm saying, what the statistics show is that within Brooklyn Park, within the geographic confines of Brooklyn Park, you have more Liberians concentrated here than you have anywhere else outside of Liberia in one particular area. So we have a pretty large population of diverse folks who live here. But I mean, obviously, naturally, I'm not running just to support the interests and improve the lives of just West Africans, but of all marginalized people and all under-resourced people who live in this area. We play a very important role within the economic ecosystem of Minnesota. So Brooklyn Park is a pretty significant city. There are 3 districts and there are 2 city council rep for each district. So I'm running in the West District, where we have the largest concentration too. The Liberians who live in Brooklyn Park, there are more Liberians who live in the West District, in the western side of Brooklyn Park, as opposed to other sides of Brooklyn Park. And among the communities of color, Liberians account for between 12 to 15% of the population. So we have a pretty large chunk of people here.
Thank you. Can you explain what the structure of the city council is and exactly what your powers would be if you were elected to this position?
I think that's a very good question, because one of the things we've found going out, knocking on doors and engaging voters and all of that, many people, unfortunately, do not know the inner workings of the city council. Many people do not know or do not understand the role that the city council plays. So the city council is the governing body of the city. So unlike, say, like Monrovia, I guess Monrovia may have been modeled after the system that may have been modeled after cities here, but the implementation and what you see in Liberia, for example, in Monrovia, is completely different from what you have here. So for one, the mayor is not appointed. The mayor, the city council, they're all elected. So these are all elected positions, and they are accountable to the people of the city. People who live within the particular geographic area. So the city council then is responsible for passing ordinances. So at the city level, we call them ordinances. Same thing you call at the state level, you call laws. So it's something like the laws that govern the city. So whether what day your trash need to be picked up, your water, how you get your water, your light, your television, all of those things. I mean, the police department, the fire department, all of those things are controlled by the city council. So the city council, in America at least, and certainly in Brooklyn Park, city council affect all aspect, or most aspect of your life. So if the police pulls you over and the police is harassing you, for example, you don't call the Attorney General or the Minister of Justice. You would deal with the city council. It's the city council that's responsible. So things are very decentralized here, as opposed to, for example, in Monrovia, where you have this centralized structure and everything is controlled by one group or one person. Here it is very decentralized, and the people who serve on the city council, they are accountable to the people who live in that city. So we manage the budget, we pass the budget. The city, we have employees, we're responsible for the salaries, and all of that. So it's a very autonomous process. But it is important to have representation at that table, because even though there are many of us who live here, I just referenced the number of Liberians who live here, for example, and other minority groups, we don't have representation at the city council. So there are 2 council members from each district out of the 3 districts. So there are 6 city council members and 1 mayor. So there are 7. So the entire city council is about seven individuals, including the mayor. Each person has a vote. So if a company is coming to build if you're opening a nightclub, if you're opening a bar, if you're opening a restaurant, all of those things are controlled by the city council. You have to get permission to do all of that from the city council. So being at the table, it gives our people, an advantage, and they'll have their voices represented. So if they want to open a small, a market stand, or they open a small business, they can have somebody there who can speak for them, who can talk for them. So that is, in a nutshell, that is the importance and the relevance of the city council, and why it is important that we have representation. Now, Brooklyn Park does not control the school district, for example. So every city in America is set up in a different way. Some cities control the schools, other cities don't. In Brooklyn Park, we're not responsible for the running of schools and all of that. We do work with them very closely, but we're not responsible. We are responsible for the fire. We're responsible for the fire department. We're responsible for the police department. We're responsible for the parks and other services and amenities in the city.
Thanks. Mr. Goya, similar question for you. Can you please explain how the school district leadership works and exactly what your role would be if you're elected to this position?
Absolutely. So the school board oversees the schools. That's just pretty much what that is. So you have, also your school board has 6 members. And the school board appoints the superintendent, who then oversees all of the day-to-day activities of the school. So he or she hires the principals, the principals then hires the teachers and again the cafeteria staff and the bus drivers and everybody else. So the school board pretty much runs and determines the kind of education our children get. So they approve, the curriculum framework, and then that gets sent to them. They approve budget. They approve allocation of money from what school to what school. From everything from food to the curriculum, the school board has the fingerprint on it. And so if you for example have a kid in Brooklyn Park, the food they eat, whether it's culturally relevant or not, is decided and approved by the school board. So like I said, you got 6 members. One of the biggest things that we have in Osceola School District right now that we need, that we're making sure that it's of essence, is that we need to hire a superintendent. We've been going without a superintendent for pretty close to a year plus now. And so that's one of the biggest issues, because again, at the end of the day, if you have people on the school board like we have right now, who have not had any introduction to education whatsoever, I mean the educational system, they pretty much shoot from the hips, so to speak. So that's why we think it's very necessary to have somebody who's been in the classroom, who's written curriculum, who's worked on several diverse pieces of educational stuff to be on the board of education. Because at the end of the day, like Winfrey said, the cities don't fund education. So half the time what has to happen is if there is a need, the school board has to be able to raise money from property taxes and then get some federal dollars and some state dollars. So in a nutshell, the school board pretty much is just the supervisors for the school district, and they're the one that hire the superintendent, and they are the boss of the school district. So they approve of everything your kids interact with, as far as even the bus driver, the bus company, the food, and the curriculum.
Thank you. So next question for you, Mr. Goya. Was there one specific thing or a couple of things that while working in the school district, you noticed that you said, okay, I really don't like this. I want to affect change, or I want to be able to, make a change in this particular area? Was there anything like that to help spur your decision to run for office?
Yeah, you know, I'm a numbers guy. I'm a mathematician, so I look at numbers all day and try to get meanings from it. So when you look at the data in the school district, you find out that none of our kids are achieving, none. So if we look across the school district, you got this east and west side divide where you have one school district, but it almost seems like they're opposite end of the spectrum, like they are polar opposite. So you have the Brooklyn, so Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, the parts that are in the school district where a lot of our immigrants, poor whites, poor blacks, Latino, Asians live. You find out that those schools are doing not relatively poorly compared to the schools on the other side. But the schools on the other side in Maple Grove and other places that seem to be doing well are only doing well if you compare them to Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. But if you compare them to other districts with the same makeup and same size, say for example like a Wazetta, they're not doing that well either. And so it almost looked like we're saying, oh, these kids in Maple Grove are doing well, but they're doing well on the comparative to Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center are not doing nothing whatsoever, right? So none of our kids in the district are doing well. And so that's one of the issues that I felt was very necessary, because if the United States is supposed to remain number one on the world stage, then we have to ensure that we are delivering world-class education to all of our kids, to all of them, bar none. I don't care if the kids are from Liberia, if they're from Asia, or their parents were born here, or they're rich white or poor white, rich black or poor black, rich Asian, poor Asian, or even Native Americans. It should not matter. We should be delivering direct instruction, world-class instruction to all of our kids. And so if you ask me what's one of the most single things that had me to say I got to run, is I'm looking at that. Because then you start to see in our district, we do a lottery system. So if you live in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, most of your kids are supposed to go to school in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. So if you want the kids to go to a magnet school, then you do the lottery. So for example, we have an art magnet school. So if your kid is really good in art and you want to get him or her to the art school system, and then they tell you you got to play the lottery. So if you play the lottery and you lose, now you have two options. You don't have to tell your kid, oh, well, sucks to be you at this point. You have to find something else to be good at, or you have to find a private school. We feel that's not right. We feel it's not right to bring market economy into the school system. We can't treat our kids like commodity. You know, in market economics, you create value by creating scarcity, artificial scarcity. We can't do that. And so that's one of the reasons I chose to run, because I feel like we have a variety of curriculum across the district. In the Brooklyn, so Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center is where you find IB, International Baccalaureate. And on the other end of the district, you find a lot of AP classes. I'm not saying either one of them is better. I'm not saying any one of them is worse, because I've taught in both of those. But I feel like we need to have a unified curriculum. Have a unified curriculum. And then if you look at the data with the community colleges in our area, so North Hennepin and Hennepin Tech, and I teach at Hennepin Tech during the summer, I teach a trio program there. You find out that a lot of the kids graduate just because, you know, we want to graduate them. We want a numbers, we want a percentage to say we have a very high rate of graduation, but we're not graduating quality. And so those kids go to community colleges and they have to take remedial classes. Now they have to pay to learn stuff they should have learned in 9th and 10th grade. And we're saying that's not right, because quite too often, most of those kids will drop out. And now they have student loans with nothing to show for it. So that's one of the biggest things that I decided that, look, I had to step in, because the point there is I'm sitting back and I'm looking at myself and I'm going, look, when it comes to equity, we've done a lot of work on equity. When I sat and saw that the SAT was kind of biased to some point, we took a contract with College Board and rewrote the math portion of the SAT. When we look at the Acuplacer, which is what a lot of colleges gave to our students as an entrance exam, and we saw that there were certain things in it that were biased, we raised our hand, got a contract, we wrote the math portion of the Acuplacer. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure we have a level playing field where all of our kids can be tested on their ability, not on where they come from or what they might have been introduced to. And so we saw the same thing when we realized that teachers of colors are very scarce. Look, I go to a lot of conferences. When I go to those conferences, most times people don't even think I'm a teacher. Like when I tell people I'm a math teacher, half the time they go, nah, you're playing. Right? Because at the end of the day, they don't expect somebody like me to be delivering direct instruction in mathematics, which is a shame. We have to be able to deliberate to bring people like us into the classroom. I tell people every day, I teach algebra. Every day when I stand in front of my classroom and deliver direct instruction to kids, it doesn't matter whether they're white, black, or Asian. There is a power in them saying, somebody, like me, delivering direct instructions. And so those are some of the things we want to see in your school district. And the last thing that got me running was we had a chairman of the board of the board of the school district who posted some really bad things about Somalis and Muslim kids. We can't have people who are supposed to be leaders saying spiteful things about kids who come to the school. And I feel at the end of the day, I would be damned if I sat down one more day and allow somebody to spew hate at our children. It's about time that we ensure that we have quality education for all of our kids. I'm not saying just Liberian kids. I'm saying every kid in our district. It's about time that we deliver direct instruction that is of quality. And the only way we can do that is to have true, try, and tested educators at the helms.
And Mr. Goya, before Danielle goes to Winfred, is this a paid position? Are you going to stop teaching now to do this? And is it a vertical? If that's paid, is it a vertical mobility or you are getting a pay cut?
It's not. I'm still going to be teaching. It's a board position where you go to meetings and they give you like stipends, I think. No, it's not paid. It is not a paid position whatsoever. It is more of a voluntary position. So I'm still going to have to be teaching to keep a roof over the head of my family. You know, so yeah.
Mr. Russell, same question for you in regards to what propelled you to decide to run for office.
Well, like I said earlier, service is a big thing to me. I have a deep passion for service, so I stepped forward to provide representation because I've noticed a serious gap in the services that our people receive here. We have a housing crisis in Brooklyn Park. Many of our people who live here, many people of color and other marginalized people live in apartment complexes. They live in these big apartment complexes spread all around Brooklyn Park, and the rent is high. So the rent is going up. And so how do we ensure that we have enough affordable housing stock so as our people are not paying high rent just to find a place to live. We have a number of big companies here. They were not paying livable wages to people who live in Brooklyn Park. So you have this company here, many of whom have received tax breaks to be here. And once they get here, they are not hiring locally. They are not hiring people who live in Brooklyn Park. So how do we ensure that we have a level playing field here in this city where everyone can thrive? It doesn't matter where you're from or your background. If you live in Brooklyn Park and you pay your taxes, you need to be a part of the economic success stories that many of the people who live in Brooklyn Park, north of 85th enjoy. It's unfair. We have a number of small businesses here. How are we supporting these small businesses? What kind of support and services are we providing to these small businesses so these small businesses thrive, so they can grow and then hire more people and provide more resources, put more resources into our government, into our local government coffers. So there are a lot of challenges here, and I felt that, because of my track record of delivering results, because of my experience, and because of the understanding of the challenges that we experience in these marginalized communities, I thought I was the best suited, the best choice to come to the city council and provide leadership and provide some strategy to try to address some of the challenges that we have with our small businesses, with our youth. Here we have a number of youth who live in Brooklyn Park. We need things for them to do. We have a number of adults, senior citizens who are and retirees They don't have a lot of activities, culturally relevant type activities for them to do. So we need to be able to provide those ideas and design the programs that will address the diverse community groups that we have, that we have here. So all of those things, understanding those issues, and when you live in this community and you work here, I mean, you become everything. You're like the go-to person. Everybody comes to you asking you, well, we need this, we need that, But in order for us to make, the inroads that we need to make and provide the services that we need to provide for our community and for the larger community, we need to be at the table. Just that simple. We have to be at the table. If not, we're going to be part of the menu. They're going to eat us up. And we cannot afford to do that. There are too many of us here. We pump a lot of money into this economy. Just the Liberian immigrant alone, between Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, annually we spend $157 million. That's a lot of money. So we need to show something for that. So all of those things, motivated and encouragement to step forward and provide leadership and to try to provide representation, on the City Council of Brooklyn Park.
Same question for you as well. Is that a paid position?
You do get stipend. So this is more of a labor of love. You're there. I mean, yeah, even though so it's a part-time position. You have everybody who's serving on the city council. Most everyone, you definitely need to have another job. So that's a part-time position. You provide service to your community, but it's important service because you're making decisions that affect people's lives. So even though you're not getting high salary or anything, you're getting stipend. You get monthly stipend, but that's pretty much what it is. But, for me, the service and representation, those things are more important to me than whatever compensation or stipend that we're going to be receiving on the city council.
Mr. Russell, how often will you go to work? Let's say you have another job. So how often you're going to be working? And I also understood that you contested before and you lost. What's different now?
Well, okay, your first question. So the city council meets every Monday. So we meet on Monday. And it's in the evening. So even if you have another job, you can still do that. There is a break. Sometimes it gets a little slow during the Christmas break, and sometimes in the summer. But you're always around. You're always working. You're always and have to be available. For the most part. Yes. To your second question. I ran before. I ran in this very seat before, and I lost by 5 votes. What is different now is that we are knocking on more doors than we did the last time. We've engaged more people. We've expanded the electoral base and bringing in more people in to vote, some new voters, some first-time voters. So it was 6 years ago. So there are a lot of things have changed in 6 years, and so I'm using more social media now. Trying to get the message out to our people and to voters, and I utilize more volunteers and I have meetings now and brought more people from other diverse community groups, brought them to the table because this is not just about me. I'm just I'm just a vessel. I'm just a person there, but this is about the community. This is about the larger community. So that's how a lot of people have seen this. They say, okay, even though Winfred is at the front of it, or Michael Elliott, or Zizi Goya, or Miamon Quigley, we're just vessel that we're going to be utilized by the larger community do the work and to do important work for these different community groups. So that's, you know, that's what it is for me. You know, that's how I see it. And that's the sort of coalition that I've been able to build. If you see the pictures of my volunteers, they cut across, you know, different, you know, ethnic groups, different racial groups, different nationalities. So it's a broad-based coalition of folks that are coming together to ensure that we have representation. We've not had you know, a Black person of color on the city council before. So this is important, and we make up 56% of the population. It's important that we have you know, representation. So that's what I've done this time that I didn't do the last time. So hopefully it will, you know, it will pay some dividends this time.
We all pray. If you're just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are speaking with Mr. Cesar Goya, who's running for the Osceola County School Board, and also Mr. Winfred Russell, who's running for a state on the city council for Brooklyn Park. Gentlemen, we are so glad that you are here. This is an eye-opener. I don't know why many of us are not running, maybe, but it's good to have you. We also understand that Mr. Mark Elliott is running as to be mayor of Brooklyn Center, and also Mrs. Miamu Quigley is running on the same school board as Mr. Goya. Let me talk about your opponents, and in a way that Mr. Goya, I understand that there are 3 seats open on the board. Their time runs out as of January 2018, and these are the 3 seats that you are contesting for. How is that done? How is the elections? Is it like someone with the highest vote take the first seat? How is that done? And who are those? What are your chances of winning, and who are your opponents?
So technically, there are 4 seats available technically. There is 1 special election seat. One of the incumbent who was not supposed to be up for election is taking the job somewhere else, and so her seat became available. And so you have somebody running, 2 people contesting for their seat. That's going to be a two-year term. I'm running for the 4-term seat, which is the 4 years. So there are 10 folks, including myself, running for those 3 seats, and they are large seats. So that means the top 3 vote getters get on it. So what are my chances? I'm an optimist, so I think my chances are great. I think when people take the time to listen to our message, which they've been doing, or take the time to look at our life's work, which most people have done, or just take the time to see what's my lived experiences have been. I think they realize that by far I am the most qualified in the race to get on the school board. We've managed to build a coalition. Like Winfred said, we have coalition that cut across cultures, that cut across races, that cut across that cut across incomes, and that cut across everything as far as religion and everything. We have people on in the Maple Grove door knocking for us. We got people in Osceola, we got people in Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, everywhere. But we've also managed to build a coalition of endorsements where we have the Education Minnesota, the teachers union, endorse me because they've seen my life work and they believe in my ideas. The Service Employees Union, one of the labor unions here, endorsed me. The Minneapolis Federation of Labor also endorsed me. Take Action Minnesota, which is one of those huge groups in the state that makes a lot of import, also endorsed me. I'm also being endorsed by Outfront Minnesota. Outfront is the group, is the advocacy group for the LGBTQ community, because they've seen that in my life work as a teacher, I've always worked to validate all kids. I always try to make sure that I validate the culture and experiences of all the children in my classroom, regardless of where they come from. So we've managed to build those coalitions. And I think those coalitions are the ones that are going to lead us to win. And we've also managed to build a coalition of parents. There's a parent group that's highly endorsing me. I have a coalition of past students, former students that are out there sending videos and testimonials. I have former parents also coming out and door knocking for us. So we feel good. We feel very, very good because we think we've been able to build a coalition as we should in education to ensure that people see, regardless of where you're from, regardless of what's your income, regardless of what's your background, that your kids are welcome in the building, and that whatever pedagogy, whatever curriculum is being taught will validate the experiences of those kids. Look, I teach math, and I keep saying this over and over. We tell our kids when they do fractions, that in order for us to add up or subtract fractions, in order for us to compare stuff, we have to have a common denominator. Children come to us as fractions. They come as part of a whole. They come from a whole community, whether it's their households or whatever they come to us as fractions. But we have a school board that is not a common denominator of the representation of the students and the experiences they bring. And we're saying that's not right. I can't keep teaching kids and tell them that when we add fractions, we have a common denominator. Yet when we come to election or we come to representation, we do not form a board that is a common denominator of all of the experiences and all of the cultural and values we have in the district. And so I think the message out there has been good. I think it's been received well. I know that there's a lot of people who believe in what we've done. They're not just looking at what we say, they're looking at our life's work. And so my chances are great. And I think by far, I am the most qualified in the race to get elected.
Mr. Russell, similar question. I know you are going against the incumbent. How is that structure in your district? How's the running? I think you have East, West, Central, and you got the two going against each other. How does that work? If you can explain to our viewing audience.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, Brooklyn Park is divided into three districts. So you have East, Central, and West. So they go north to south, so the incumbent has been there now for 6 years, and I'm challenging him. I think I bring some fresh ideas. I bring some new strategy, and I understand the challenges that people in the community are facing. I'm connected to those challenges based on my life experiences and all of that. But the way it is done is a simple majority. So we have the election. The last time when I ran against him, and I lost by 5 votes. We did a recount and an automatic recount, and he came up on top, as well. So at least he's had 6 years there now. And we see the direction of this country and where this country is going. We need a diverse voice, but not only a diverse voice for the sake of having a diverse voice, but a voice with the track record, a voice that comes to the table ready to go from Jump Street, ready to move forward and providing really strong leadership. And I think I present that voice, and I think I present a very eclectic a voice of the people that can make the city council look like the city of Brooklyn Park. The city of Brooklyn Park is very diverse. We cannot have a city council that just look like one part of the city. The city has to look like the sum total of the entire city. That's how the city council has to look. It has to reflect the entire city. And so, but that is not the only reason why to have a different voice there. But my opponent does not support parks and trail. We need to be to have enough parks and trails here where we can get our folks active and involved in wellness type activities, into activities that will keep us from getting a lot of cardiovascular diseases. We need somebody who understands all of that. We need somebody who's going to support our fire department, and we have to support our fire department so they are they have the requisite staff to provide the services that the people in the city need. We need to provide programs for our young people to keep them, activated, to keep them energized, to keep them engaged. I understand all of that. I come to the table with a lot of experience working in trying to bring communities together, but solving problems in the community. I have been a problem solver for the last 15 years, being in this city, and I think being on the city council gives me the leverage, gives me the platform that I need to effect more changes and to provide more services and more support for the people of Brooklyn Park. My opponent doesn't. He's someone who doesn't think that people can be discriminated against based on their skin color, or based on where they're from, or based on how they pray and all of that. And we don't need that kind of person representing us at City Hall.
All right.
Yes, Mr. Goya, you talked about volunteers earlier. So can you explain to us how your campaign is funded and whether you're aligned with any political party?
My campaign is funded by donations from people who believe in the ideas that we've been espousing out there for all of our kids. That at the end of the day, when our kids succeed, when children are given access to quality instruction and quality education, regardless of where they live and where they are, that at the end of the day, our entire community succeed. That my brother Winfred also likes to make a quote, and I want to quote him on there, that we do well when we all do well, that we do well when all of our kids succeed together. And so to that end, we've had people donate money to us. We've had donations ranging from $3, the widow's mite, to $600. So we've had, most of these groups I talk about that endorse us, give us money. So for example, the Service Employees Union give me $600 to my campaign. Education Minnesota also give us some money. But the most we've been very grateful for are those older people you meet in the street that go, young man, I got a blessing for you. I don't have any money, but I got a blessing for you. Because at the end of the day, my culture teaches me that blessings are worth way more than finances. And so to that end, that we've been able to get people, like I tell people a story about an 82-year-old lady who called me one day and said, Mr. Goya, I believe in you. I'm going to go out the door knock for you. 82-year-old lady. I mean, she can't even walk 1 mile if you give her a whole day. But she came and she got some flyers for me, and she knocked doors for me. I mean, it might have been 6, 7, or 8 doors, but those 6, 7, or 8 doors meant a lot. And it meant a lot that she felt like she was doing it. So that's the power of having volunteers. It's the power of having a message that cuts across a religion, that cuts across culture, that cuts across races. That's the power of having a unifying voice and a unifying message. And so, yes, my school board race is non-political. It's supposed to be. But at the end of the day, political parties always fight their proxy wars in these things anyway. It's almost like I tell people, it's almost like the U.S. and the USSR back in the day. They never had a war physically, but they always fought in other people's country, right? So those proxy wars. I lean Democratic. I am a progressive as far as my thinking, because I'm a teacher. At the end of the day, as an instructor, what I see is how can I help my students to be here now and here? And so I teach in a community school where we have partners that come in to help our kids. Whether they got money or not, we get people there to help for their food. We give them free and reduced lunch, right? That's a progressive idea, right? Regardless of whether your parents can pay for the food. In my community school model, in my school, whether or not you have access to health insurance or you can afford it, if your child is sick, we don't send them home. We have doctors in the building that help them, that treat them so they don't have to miss school to go home, right? So to that extent, as an educator, yes, I lean progressive, but I always tell people, I am an independent thinker. I'm not going to get on the school board and run it as like a Democratic Party. No, it's not. Because at the end of the day, I want children to feel safe in school. So that when kids go to school, it doesn't matter which household you come from, whether your parents are far-leaning Democrats or far-leaning Republicans or independents. At the end of the day, when you solve a problem in class and say X is 5, I don't tell the kids X is 5 for the Republican kids and X is 3 for the Democratic kids. So to that end, I am non-political when I get on the board, and I should be, because at the end of the day, education should be the one place where we go, and we don't have to be tribal. We don't have to sit on our own and on our own extremes and say we cannot come together. This work, if we must succeed, should always be about the children. Should always be about all kids first and nothing else. So I'm building coalition out there, because at the end of the day, to be successful as a leader, you need coalition. But I'm not going to lose myself in that. I'm always going to be an independent thinker, because I've seen the stress in the classroom that my kids go through, and I will be a voice for those kids, because this is lived experience. This is not something I'm reading from somebody's book. This is something I am living daily.
And so you talk about knocking on doors, and we know that can be a very unique experience. So tell us about some of the experiences you've had, good and bad.
On the overall, we've had very good experiences. Mr. Jai, when was my campaign manager when we ran for EULA, so my wife had just come, and we threw her into the EULA campaign race. Right, we left from there without even stopping. We ran into Lofa County stuff, and now she's here door knocking. So she's been in the state 1 year, and you can tell the difference between Liberian politics in here, right? So in Liberia, I just play, some loud music, and people come and we talk to a whole group of people. But now you got to go door to door to door to door and talk to people about this retail politics. The conversations has been great overall. There's been people who you get to and you just want to talk 1 minute, but they hold you for 30 minutes. And they offer you coffee, and because they're so interesting what you got to say, and they have a whole lot to say because they're invested. And there's some people where, they see you door knocking their neighbor, and you see them outside, and then they run inside and put the garage door down, like they don't want to talk to you. We had a situation where my uncle and his wife, the people who raised me when my dad left to come to the States when I was a child, they flew in from Texas to come and door knock for me. So we're outdoor knocking, all, Black folks. And some folks call the police on us, right? So we're walking and we see this squad car come, and next thing you got, whoa, whoa. And then I was like, oh, dang, it's the police. So they come over and say people had called, on us that we might be stealing stuff in the community, But we had a conversation with the cops, and they understood it was a misconception. It was just wrong, and they even laughed about it. But we've had those situations. But I would say overall, this has been a learning experience. It's been a great learning experience, because I've had some great conversations with people. They are very wonderful people in Osceola School District that care about all kids, that have very wonderful ideas on how to move this district forward.
Mr. Russell, what about you? What can you tell us about your experiences of going door to door?
It's a very interesting process, and we've had fun with it. We are enjoying it. Of course, you get to some of those, you don't receive the welcome that you may receive, or you may I think that you need to receive. But overall, it's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful experience. It's been great to go door to door and talk to residents and understand their issues and understand, the challenges and the successes, and tell you about their family and their neighborhood, their children and grandchildren and all of them. So it's been great. By and large, it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. It's a completely different process than what we have back in Africa, in Liberia, because as Mr. Goya said, this is more retail politics as opposed to wholesale politics. So it's not like you go into the Antoinette Tubman Stadium and get a bunch of people there and have these big rallies and stuff. This is much more personal. You have to, talk to, the people one-on-one and try to win them over and try to engage them and try to tell you, the issues that are happening and what they would like you to do about it. So it's very personable, the experience, and you cover a lot of ground, and you're exercising at the same time. So that's how we try to look at it. Overall, it's been a wonderful experience. And if you haven't tried it, if you're listening to this program or or you watching us, you need to try it. You need to check it out. I mean, you will definitely get some rejection. There's some people who may not want to talk to you. I mean, you get to the door. Sometimes you get to the door, as you're approaching the door, the lights are on, and the windows, the blind, they're all open and all of that. As soon as you get closer, all of a sudden, everything just, there's no lights on, the windows are all closed, the blinds are all closed. And you're like, oh, what's going on? Am I at the wrong place? I thought I saw the windows all open. So you have to some of those experiences, but it's been good. It's fun. It's wonderful to meet the people you will be serving, and they want to know you, want to know what, your position and where you stand. And I think that's great because these are the people who are going to be holding us, accountable. And these are some of the ideas and some of the things that I hope one day we can take back to where we're from to try to improve the system and the process of the system. For now, we are here. We will be here. We're here for a long time, and we have a community that this is our place, and we're going to try to make the best out of it. And we're going to try to provide leadership that our people here so deserve.
Mr. Russell, Daniel asked Mr. Goya about his political leaning. And on top of that, I also want to ask you, where do you draw most of your support when it comes to demographics or a certain block of people that are kind of really rooting for you?
Well, my support base is pretty diverse. I've worked in a number of sectors here in Minnesota. I do draw support from both sides of the political aisle, so to speak. I get support, I get love from the Democrats, I get love and support from the Republicans. For this election cycle, I've been endorsed by the Democratic Party. But I'm a free thinker. I make my own decision. Even though I've been endorsed by the Democratic Party doesn't control how I think, or will not control the decisions I make when I'm on the city council. I'm here to serve the people of Brooklyn Park, full stop. But what the Democratic endorsement process has done, it has allowed me to expand my base. It's allowed me to get in new voters and connect with new people. I've also received support from the Brooklyn Park Fire Department. I think the fire department knows how I feel about public safety and my support for why I think we need to have a first-class fire department and all of the staff in place there at the fire department. So I received endorsement from the fire department of Brooklyn Park, local 5031. I also received endorsement from the union, from the labor union. I am for workers' rights. I'm for livable wages and all of that. So a lot of the values that I espouse are values that are shared by a number of these organizations that have endorsed my candidacy. But that doesn't mean that they will be pulling me by a string and telling me what to do or how to vote. It doesn't work that way. And I don't work that way. But the vast majority of the support I've received have come, this support has come from residents who live in Brooklyn Park and giving, making regular donation to my campaign. Other well-wishers too also made some contribution. Election and participating in election in America, in anywhere for that matter, is a very expensive enterprise. So we need all of the support. We have to keep track of all of the support we receive, and we have to report it. So this is not money that we use to pay our rent. This is money that we have to use to get our message out to the voters. But that's why the funds that we raised, that's why those funds are important, and it plays a really critical role in trying to get our message out, in trying to get us elected, and all of that. So if you haven't contributed to any campaign yet, please do that. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to help support people getting elected who are going to represent your interests and who want to be there to speak for you as well.
We have a question here on YouTube. I know Tuesday is elections, and everything that you are doing is not going to mean anything if people don't get to the polls to vote for you. What are you doing to get people at the polls to vote on Tuesday? Let me start with you, Mr. Goya.
And that's true. That is absolutely true. If people don't come out to vote on Tuesday, then all of the toiling that we've done shall be for naught. So what we've been doing is we've been reaching out to people and letting them know that in Minnesota, you allow 2 hours from work, paid hours, so to go and vote. We've been educating people about that, because quite often our people will say, well, I'm on the clock, I can't leave. And we've been educating people about their right, that you have the right to take 2 hours off work to go and vote, 2 paid hours off work. It's not from your paid time off, it's not for anything, and your employers cannot intimidate you or punish you for that. The other thing we've been doing is there's a lot of our people who don't have access to vehicles, so we set up a system where people can call us if they need rides to the polls. The Organization of Liberians in Minnesota actually has just put together something really great where the organization's offices are going to be open. There are going to be people there with rides, and if you can just call and let the executive director know where you are, there will be people to pick you up. If you can get the OLM office, there will be people to take you to the polls, regardless of who you're voting for. We just need our people out to vote. And we're hoping that when they come out to vote, that they at least consider us. But even if they're not voting for us, we're asking people, just call, get out and vote. I know it's going to be cold on Tuesday. It's going to be cold on Tuesday, but it's going to be even colder if you don't get out to vote for people who represent you, people who espouse to your values. If you don't brave the cold, those 2 hours cold to go out and vote, you're going to be in a frozen tundra for the next 6 to 8 years. Because elections have consequences. I keep telling people there are no sidelines in these elections. Doing nothing is also doing something. So you either brave the cold and get out and spend 2 hours to vote for your children's future, or you can brave the cold for the next 6 to 8 years. And especially so for the school board. Because at the end of the day, we all toil because we want our kids to be better than us. Every parent always wants their kid to do better than them. And so if we don't get out now and vote to ensure that we have a school district that caters to the need of all of our children, whether or not they're special education, or whether or not they're gifted and talented, or whether or not they live in poor neighborhoods, or whether or not they're rich kids, unless and until we come out on Tuesday and vote, we can complain all we want. Like somebody wrote on Facebook, one of the guys from here, and I want to quote him. My son has said, the only immigrant caravan we're interested in is the immigrant caravan that's coming out to vote on Tuesday. So we need to come out to vote. We can't leave this thing to be the people thing anymore. We are the people. We have to come out and vote. And we're trying our best. We're going to reach out to people. At the end of the day, we can only hope, we can only pray that people hear the message and realize that one of the fundamental rights and responsibility of a citizen is to vote.
Mr. Russell, same question. How are you getting your folks to the polls to vote for you?
Yeah, so part of what we will be doing is that providing transportation to take people to the polls, letting people know where they can go to vote. We have a number of volunteers who are going to be giving rides to people to go and vote. We're just, as you said earlier, which is so accurate. That is, all of what we're doing, we continue to do until the last day. What matters most is for people to show up to vote. Because if you don't show up to vote, all of this is a waste of time. But we have to try to facilitate the process and try to help help them to get to the polling station. We live in a transit-dependent area, so a number of our people cannot drive, don't have cars to drive, to take public transportation, and public transportation may not get to all of these places. So we're trying to provide private cars to take people to the polling station. Uber and Lyft, ride share programs and services. They will also be providing free rides to anyone who wants to go and vote. So there are a lot of opportunity to get out, but we will be doing our part in getting the message out there that people can call us. We have our numbers out on our campaign Facebook page and other media, social media platforms to let people know where they can pick up rides or how they can access the rides services that we have to pick them to go and vote.
Once more, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing the U.S. midterm elections, where we have some Liberian Americans who are contesting. They are Mr. Cisse Goya for Osio County School Board, Mr. Winfred Russell for the Brooklyn Park City Council. We also have Mrs. Maima Quigley for the Osio County School Board, and Mr. Mike Elliott for Brooklyn Center Mayor. You can post your questions or comments on Facebook. We are live. And Danielle.
Yeah, so Mr. Goya, what would you say have been the major challenges of your campaign? What have been those uphill battles?
So some of the major challenges of the campaign has been just trying to get people to open their doors and to just for a second leave their own ideological corners and listen to the messages. Because we found that this country is so polarized now. Everybody, tend to get tribal. And so the minute you start to speak and once people label you as something in their mind, they either A, tune you on full blast, or B, tune you off completely. And so that's been one of the major challenges, but we've managed to navigate that. I think we've been very good at trying to get people to listen to us, because at the end of the day, once you speak to one person and then they speak to another person, and they speak to another person, the message starts to catch on. So one of the greatest successes for us has been our messaging, because at the end of the day, people see and they realize that this is not messaging that is written. This is messaging that comes from the heart. This is messaging that comes from lived experience. So I'm not saying, thus says somebody in this book. I'm saying this is what I've seen. This is what I learned. This is what I do. And so that to the greater extent has been very good for us. And we've been able to listen to a lot of people who've come out. And look, I will always tell people in this lifetime, I've learned something during this campaign, that things always come back full circle. I've had students that I don't remember anymore. I didn't remember anymore because I've been doing this for a long time. Students that have graduated high school, go on to college, graduated, and they call me out of the blue and go, Mr. Goya, I didn't even know you were running. I want to do my early voting. I see your name. I'm like, oh, I'm voting for Mr. Goya, because I remember that one day, and they'll come up with those funny stories like, one day you give them lunch, you give them your lunch, but you don't remember it, but they remember it because they went a long way. Or that one day where they didn't do your homework and you had empathy on them. You understood why they didn't do the homework because they told you what happened. So life always come back full circles. I've had parents that have come out to door knock for me and to give testimony about how I related to them and their children, how I was their one teacher, that their child only came to school because I was there. So in this lifetime, one thing I've learned is that you have to be very mindful how you treat folks, because life does come back full circle. I've had other teachers that I taught with before come back and say, oh, vote for Goya. This guy was my teacher leader. This guy was my teacher mentor. This guy was the chairman of my department. He treated me with class. And so that has been very great for us. Although we've had some frustrating conversations, but there's always those things, where you get to somebody's door. We had a point where I knocked on somebody's door and he told me, why you stay here? This is the reason Donald Trump needs to build the wall, because folks like you are here you take all of our jobs, now you're trying to run for stuff, and I just looked at him and I had an educational moment with him, because I just asked him, like, do you know where I'm from? And we just had that conversation because sometimes it can be vexing. And I was a little bit tuned up inside. But at the end of the day, I couldn't have run from that guy, because if I ran from that conversation, then what am I teaching my students? That every time somebody has a counterpoint to you, you run. So there are some conversations that have been vexing. But on the overall, I would tell people on the overall, it's been very easy. People have opened their doors to me. I got kids now that have become like my own kids because their parents heard me speak and their parents brought them to hear me speak, and they heard my message. And like a kid called Charlie, whose mom now is just door knocking every day for me in Midterm, because when we had that conversation, we connected on the level, that other people had not been able to connect with this kid, and this kid is in high school. And so I'm just, it's a good experience. It's an overall good experience. There's some crazy moments, but if anybody asks me, would I do this again? I would do it all over again without any reservation, because this has been good.
And so, you talked about going door to door. What are other ways that you've been trying to reach voters, and what way do you think is best?
I think door to door is the best, man. Because you get to hear from people and then you get to talk to them. That personal touch is the best. But again, I'm running in a district that is very huge. I'm saying 8 cities. It's like I'm running 8 mayor's races. That's huge. The last election estimate was, I think they had about 150,000 or 130,000 votes come out of the school district that I'm running for. That's a very huge district. So we can't door knock all of them. That's the reason we had volunteers from these other organizations that endorse us, the Education Minnesota. So we've done some phone banking, to be able to reach people that way. We got some ad running on Facebook. I've been running some Facebook ads also, because we can't afford the money to run a TV ad. So we've been running ad on Facebook. And then just that retail politics for me has been the best. It's been the best. We've been sending text messages out, but nothing beats knocking on the door and have somebody open the door and you'll have that conversation.
Mr. Russell, same question for you. What are other ways you're trying to reach voters, and what do you think has been best for you?
One of the things we've been able to do this time around is we go into a number of functions and meeting people there too as well, spreading our message of inclusion and equity and diversity to all of the folks around different community groups. We were just at the Miss Nigeria International Beauty Pageant, for example, talking to people there. We've been to various churches within the community. For the Liberian community, for example, there are about 52 ethnic Liberian churches in Brooklyn Park. So reaching out to them, to getting them on board. We've had some pastors, Father Wilson and Pastor Collins, who've come out to help us door knock and help to get the message out. We've been to, Pastor Tabla at the Ebenezer Church helped us to get our message out in that church, and Pastor Friday at Bethel. So we've gone to all of these different groups. We talked to some of the imams, Al-Haji from the Sierra Leonean Guinean community, who helped us get our message out. And so we were trying to go to the deeper crevices of the community and meeting people at different events, at different county organizations, different groups, and there's some folks who have they're a megaphone of their own. So just talking to them get messages on Facebook, on Twitter, using social media to express our ability. And the local television station here has carried some of our messages too as well. So we've embraced that. So we're using all types of platforms. We engage in all types of people, all groups of stakeholders, diverse stakeholders, millennials, and different groups of folks to get the message out and ultimately to get people to the polls to vote.
Awesome. Okay, so for you also, what have been your major challenges in the campaign, and I guess how have you tried to overcome those?
Well, I mean, one of the things especially at at this level, when you're running at this level, I mean, resources is always a major challenge. So how do you get your message out to your constituents? And so part of what we've done is to leverage our access with our communities and other community groups and other leaders from different communities to help get our message out to as well. So resources, financial resources, have been one of the problems that we've had, and the way we've sort of tried to overcome that is by bringing in different groups and leveraging some free media type opportunities, whether it's on social media where people are sharing our information and all that. That's helped. And just the sheer size, the geographic size of where we have to cover, it's not as big as what Mr. Goya has to cover, but it's still pretty sizable because in my district alone, there were 15,000 registered voters that I had in my district. And I had about pretty close to about 10,000 doors that, to knock. Doing 8 to 10,000 doors to knock. I mean, those are not in apartments, but homes. You have to go to all these homes and knock on that door. So just the sheer volume of folks that you have to connect and reach out to has been a challenge. And the way we've been able to overcome that is by bringing in and relying on a lot of volunteers. So I'm talking about pastors coming out to help us too as well. We have other volunteers who have showed up, who've shown up here with us, and they have been there, pressing flesh, passing out information, and knocking on doors too as well. So those are some of the issues that we've had and ways that we have utilized to try to mitigate those issues that we've had in trying to get our message out and campaign throughout the West District.
And so what, in your experience, do you think has prepared you for this role on City Council?
Well, I've served on the Brooklyn Park. I've been involved in so many different levels. Working at the University of Minnesota, one of the largest university in the country, actually, and working with different educational institutions here too as well. College at the college level, I have given me a pretty good insight, and a pretty good database which I can tap into, I've been able to tap into, and working in grassroots community organizations, working with all these different groups, have really taught me about the challenges that people are facing, face day to day to get food on the table or to get a job that pays a decent wage. So that helped me to understand the challenges that are to this country as a refugee student. So I know the challenges, I know some of the issues that we have to deal with, worrying about immigration, papers and all of that. So all of those things, just my own life experiences, have helped me has helped to prepare me for this role. And while I think I'll be, a good listener and a good servant once I get on the city council. I've also worked at a community level, besides the professional level, working with a number of big institutions here and a number of grassroots organizations. I also work, at the county level, working with different stakeholders at the county level. I work at the city too as well. I serve on the planning commission. And for those of you who may not know, the planning commission is the commission at the city that helps to enforce the zoning laws of the city too as well, and ensuring where you build your business, where you establish a business, and decide, where you are opening your store, and all of that. So serving on the planning commission gave me a lot of insight as to how the city operates and how we can go about expanding our commercial, retail, tax base. For example. So I served there for 4 years, and I left to go to Liberia to work on Ebola, to serve as the response manager of the Ebola response program. Then I served on the Hennepin County Library Board. And the library board is a very influential body. It determines, it oversees the operations of all of these the library. And Hennepin County Library System is one of the largest library systems in the country. So serving on there and, and providing a critical voice as to what we see in the library and helping to provide some insight as to how libraries are designed and to ensure that libraries serve all of the people and, and have some diverse collection of resources at these libraries and, all of those things, serving on the planning, on the Human Rights Commission, Human Rights Commission. So I've been on a different role on the HIV Planning Council at the state level, the county level. So I bring a lot of experience to the table, to this position, and the understanding of how the system works and what we need to put together and what we need to do to provide the services that many people in Brooklyn Park so desire. Those have been some of the areas and some of the places that I have been that have really prepared me for a seat on the Brooklyn Park City Council.
Mr. Goya, same question for you. What are some of your experiences that you think have prepared you for this role?
So what I do, this is it, what I do currently. Sacrifice. Teaching is a sacrificial job, especially so when you have options, right? So doing that and trying to get on a board, which is also a sacrifice. Like my brother said, it's a labor of love. So I've been doing this for the last 8-9 years now, 7 years with my current school district. I teach in a school district that's 85% free and reduced lunch. I teach kids that come to me most time hungry. I teach a diverse population of kids. So I've been able to build a community in my classroom that validates all of the cultural experiences that these kids come to me with, all of their lived experiences. And I think that is what is needed on the school board. And I think it's very apropos. We're talking about a school board. I think it's a foregone conclusion to think that it makes sense to have an educator, a true, tried, tested, and talented educator on a board that runs education. So my lived experiences, I've to work for equity a long time. Like I told you earlier, when we saw a disparity, when College Board recognized a disparity in the ACT, in the acupuncture, we raised our hands. We traveled all over the nation to try to make sure that we wrote a test that was free from bias. I teach at a summer program for first generation students. And there are data that shows, and we've actually been to College Board conferences where we presented data showing that in our summer program, in the summer program in which I teach math, we've managed to push the gap, to close the achievement gap and the opportunity gap. So we've been doing that work. This is not something we're saying we read in a book. This is something I'm saying, look at my life's work. So what prepares me for the role I'm seeking is what I've been doing every day. This is one job I've had in my lifetime where my alarm does not wake me up. I wake up before my alarm because I love it so much. And this is the same passion that I'm bringing to the board. Because at the end of the day, we have to be passionate about the success of all of our children. And I'm a teacher leader. So I sit on a board, like I said, I sit on the QCOM board. In Minnesota, you have some school that are quality compensation. What that is some teachers receive bonuses, for lack of a better word. And I sit on a board that determines whether a teacher gets a bonus based on the criteria we set. So I'm able to hold teachers accountable. Even though I belong to the union, I'm able to hold other teachers accountable. I am the chairman for the math department. So I'm able to sit in my department and hold other people accountable if they're not doing things the right way. So we've shown that we can hold our colleagues accountable whilst they're making sure that we have qualified and competent teachers in the classroom and stay advocating for quality. And that's the thing we're bringing on the school board. Because at the end of the day, we need somebody on the school board who can tell folks that market economy does not work in the school system. That we don't treat kids like commodities. That at the end of the day, you don't create artificial scarcity to create value. You value your worker, you hire competent people, you validate them, and you ensure that they are trained in culturally relevant pedagogy to ensure that all of the kids that come to us, regardless of what household they come from, are validated in the day-to-day lessons and instructions that they deliver. And so my lived experience, my sacrifice to be in the classroom, and I would do that every time over and over. If it was possible for me to die and reincarnate and I come back, I would be a math teacher all over again. And I would look for a school district like Brooklyn Center High School that has poor kids in it to teach. Because at the end of the day, I believe God blessed me to be on these shores to be a blessing to other people. And the only way I can be a blessing to other folks is to be a blessing to their kids, to introduce them to rigorous, culturally validated instructions. And that's what I'm trying to bring to Osceola School District, because we love this district so much. This is the one district that has a lot of diversity. And I think we can be number one in the nation if we just leverage the quality and competent staff that we have in this district.
Mr. Russell, let's talk about these institutions, like the city council, and for Mr. Goya, the school board or the school district. Are these institutions working currently? What are their strengths? What are some of the things that they do? The way they are put together, is it something good and great? Are they doing the work they're supposed to do? Mr. Russell.
I mean, for sure, the city council is doing what it's supposed to do. The reason I would like to join the city council is to try to further that work, to enhance that work, to ensure that work, the work that the city council does benefits all of the residents of Brooklyn Park. But you bet the city council is doing a wonderful job. The city council structure that we have here is something that I think we can emulate. It's unfortunate that we have not been able to utilize this model in Liberia, even though we are given this model, but we've chosen to do something totally different. There, and you cannot even recognize what we have there in Liberia, for example. I know this show, the program Focus it's called Focus on Liberia, so at least we can try to draw some contrast between this what we're doing here and what we have in Liberia. So I just hope that we need a complete revamped, complete revamped system there. And as far as municipal government is controlled, is managed in Liberia. What we have here in the city council, I mean, it is working like clockwork. There's no question about it. I'm not saying that there cannot be improvement. There's always improvement. There's no perfect system. But the system is for sure working. It does its due diligence. It does what it's supposed to do. But of course, the people on the city council on these in these bodies, they make up these bodies. They can shift the direction and the focus of these bodies. But these are institutions that will live and continue to live after all of us. So we'll serve in all of that, and they're working well, and they're great. They're good models to use, and I hope that we can have the courage in Liberia to change the model of our municipal governments throughout the country, and ensure that people who serve those bodies are accountable to the people, and not to the people in central government or at some ministry or in government, but they are accountable to the people. And you all are here. You see how the system works. You cannot tell us how to run our city. You cannot come to us and dictate to us, what to do and what not to do. I mean, that's how autonomous and reliable, the system here is. Whereas, we have the president, appointing the mayor or telling the mayor what to do, and the budget of the city, comes from the national budget, and so you have to be nice to the president, because if you're not nice to the president or the powers that be, you may not get the budget you need to run, to run your city. It doesn't work like that here, and I hope we can take I think of two from here there. We generate our own resources. We get money from the government, but very small amount of money comes from local government aid, as it's called, comes from the county or from the state. But we generate our own resources here. Taxes, Brooklyn Park alone. Just the money that we receive from our parks, from renting services, and or contractual services from other groups, we generate upwards of about $70 to $80 million a year. In an office. Monrovia can do that. Kingsville can do that. If we had the right system, we had the right structure.
And Mr. Rosso, you thank God you kind of preempted my next question. Is you talk about the one or two things that can be changed. So learning the way the city work or that institution work, what can you learn from that now and kind of take to Liberia? Or what are the two things? What are some of the differences that you want to see, and how that can be carry over or replicated in, let's say, Greenville or Banga or Vanjaman or Monrovia?
I think that's a brilliant question. I'm sorry I preempted your question.
That's good. I like that.
But it's something that is so dear to my heart. This municipal governance and governance as a whole, and and the structure. We unfortunately thrive on mediocrity, or we thrive, or we want to see a dysfunctional system, because when you have a dysfunctional system, you can do whatever you want to do. You can corruption can thrive. Without any checks and any balances there. So that's why the powers that be, unfortunately, don't care to fix the system, or to have structures in place, to hold people accountable. So the number one thing I would do, if I had the opportunity, would ensure that from Fishtown in Riverview County to Vonjima in Lofa County to Robertsport in Kitman County, to ensure that all of the cities in Liberia elect their mayors, that they were not appointed, that they were elected by the people that they serve, and they can at least have some say in the income that comes from those different areas. And that don't have a system where all of the income, you know, whether you're in Saniquili or in Yekepa, you have resources there, you know, and all of those resources go to support central government. A portion of it can go to central government, of course, you know, but a larger portion of it should stay in that area. So my number one thing would be that to ensure that those, and we need to quit making the excuses, we don't have money to have election. That's not true. You know, people want the system to be the way it is because you can easily manipulate the system the way it is and make it, to benefit you and your group and your little circle to keep the system the way it is. But we have the resources to have election, and we can have municipal elections throughout the country. So that would be one of the first things I would change. Another thing I would do, especially for the big cities, is to ensure that those cities have their own police, unit where they can work alongside the Liberian National Police, for example. But they have, and the police, Monrovia police, should not just be to enforce, ordinance, just one, ordinance, or where people market women selling on the street or whatever. That's the only ordinance, or people throwing trash on the street. That's the only ordinance or so that they have, that they enforce. So how do we generate income? How, in places like Harper, I'm not sure if you've been to Harper, Maryland County, beautiful city, well laid out. Harper could be generating, tourism dollars that can go back into running the city, into helping to run the city. Why aren't we doing that? Because we don't have a structured system. The people who are appointed to those positions seem to work, to please the people in Central Monrovia, or the work at the behest of the people in Central Monrovia. So the entire system will definitely have to be revamped in order to show results. And it's not, other parts of Africa, it is done that way. If you go to to Abidjan, I went to Namibia. You have city governments where they were structured and they were accountable to the people, and they were creating jobs. They have parks. Just a little Brooklyn Park, a city like Brooklyn Park. If you see the number of parks we have in Brooklyn Park, you can't even compare it with 4 or 5 countries in Africa before you say, and those parks generate resources. The parks we have here, they contribute to quality of life of people. So all of these things can be easily done. Why we're not doing it in Liberia, we have not done it, is beyond me. But I think it's just poor leadership. So definitely, I would love to see some sort of structure that is accountable to the people, that is providing resources and services to the people and all of that.
And Mr. Goya, same question to you. Is the institution that you want to work for, the school board, is it working? And if yes, what knowledge, what are they doing right that you can take to Liberia that we can replicate to make our system work as well? Besides the Monrovia school system, I don't know if we have these school boards and things like that in Liberia, but you can speak to that.
Say to the extent there is an example of that would be the Monrovia Consolidated School System, the MCSS, that has a superintendent, and I think they have a board, but the only problem is it's very limited, right? So they don't have control over budget to a larger extent. Ministry of Education kind of oversizes that, sidestep them, and then so they don't have access to curriculum as they should not, because Liberia is so small for us to have a lot of different curriculums in the country. Now, back to the school board. The school board has been doing some things really wonderful, because I can't say they haven't been doing anything well, because they've managed to keep students in school for this long. But there are some things that they need to accelerate. Some improvements that have to be accelerated. Because what I see is, I don't see us having a hardware issue as far as the way the system is set up. I see us having a software issue as far as the way the implementations is carried out. And that's one of the things I want to come onto the school board to change. It's not the hardware, it's the software. Because at the end of the day, we have to hire a superintendent. You know, we can say the school district has been doing great things, but for those teachers and educators who are going without a head, without a superintendent to direct the work of the district, you know, weight is not in their vocabulary. For those parents who have their children in the school who don't feel safe in the school, either because they are immigrants or they are LGBTQ or they are rich white kid or they are Christian kids or Muslim kids, weight is not in their vocabulary. You know, you can't tell them the school district is doing well when they don't see that in their individual homes. For those parents who kids, we say graduate at high school, but they realize that those kids can't even pass an entrance to get into a community college, wherein they have to put them in remedial classes. Weight and success is not in their vocabulary. They don't see that. For those teachers who are dealing with very large class sizes where they're not able to create community and to build those relationships that are necessary to be able to impact knowledge, you know, a weight is not a word that they are comfortable with. For those folks in our school district who are on fixed income and yet they see their property taxes go up to be able to fund schooling, when in fact the kids are not doing well, when the instruction that when we see from the MCA and we see from the state that our kids are not achieving, then for those folks who are paying money into the system to make sure that our kids are educated, even though they're on fixed income, then success and weight is not a comfortable word for them. So yes, I see the hardware has been okay, but I see flaws in the software. And that's where I come in. I think that's where we need to focus on. Now, how do I take this back home? Because this is focused on Liberia. Look, I'm going to add on to what Winfred said. I think for me, it shouldn't even stop at a mayoral level. I've always advocated that superintendents should be elected. I think those people should be quasi-governors, where you're the governor of your county, right? Because that's how it's set up. They have CEOs, county educational officers, who are, you know, supposed to be their low ministers of education, but those people have no control over educational policy. The only thing they do is to monitor. They go and monitor their district educational officers, if they do, and the district educational officers are supposed to go and monitor the school principals, which they don't, and the school principals are supposed to monitor their teachers and create plans for improvement, which they don't, right? So at the end of the day, it's a breakdown of a system. So what would I recommend? My first thing I told people when this government came to power, and I did the same thing when we went back, we met with Ellen, and we told her, look, I've always volunteered my time to go back to Liberia and help, not as an employee. This summer, just this gone summer, when CDC took over, I reached out to them and said, when they were trying to look for those 6,000 teachers from Nigeria, I said, you can bring teachers from America. They will not be able to function in this system that we have in Liberia. The first thing we need to do is to revamp and rewrite our curriculum, have a standardized curriculum, have a way to license teachers. The Press Union of Liberia, for God's sake, issues licenses to press people, and we cannot license teachers. So I told them that we've been doing this for a long time, that I've done this for other institutions. I've written curriculum for other institutions, that I was willing to go back home this summer, give them 1 month of my life for free to sit with education ministry, rewrite the curriculum, rewrite licensing standard. Because like I said, I sit on a licensing board in the state of Minnesota. So to carry that idea back and help them build a licensing format and build and rewrite the curriculum so that when you recruit teachers, that you're able to hold them accountable and they know what to teach. For God's sake, if you take a kid from a Catholic school and take them to another Catholic school, they will be lost, because even within the Catholic school system, they don't have a unified curriculum. Now imagine taking kids from a Lutheran school to a public school, or from a public school to a Methodist school. They get lost. We've offered that out there, and we told them I didn't even want the government to pay me, because during the summer I get paid by my school district. All I asked my country to do was to offer me an economy ticket to go back home. I was going to feed myself for 1 month. I was going to lodge myself for 1 month. I was going to transport myself for 1 month. All it was going to cost this government was something around $1,300 for an economy ticket. And I couldn't even get there because politics got in the way. People felt that I was from Lofa County, and therefore I supported Joseph Boakai, and therefore I would not be a good fit to help my country.
Wow.
So like Winfred Russell said, it's this tribal thing that, sometimes we think, and tribal not as saying Loma and Gizi and Pele, but tribal as saying we take too much sides and we're not willing to look across the table and say, look, even though Russell might have voted for another political party, I can't even vote in Liberia. Because I would be breaking the law. But even if I was supporting a candidate and that candidate lost and I offer my services, and you know that I'm qualified to do that, and I didn't even ask the government to pay me anything, yet it was refused. So these are some of the things we need to change in Liberia, because we have a broad-based spectrum of qualified Liberians in the diaspora. But it becomes very difficult for some of us to take the ideas that we've learned here back home, because people become so tribal in a minute, right? Because somebody thinks Joseph Boakai was from Lofa County and Sisi Goya is a Loma name, therefore I support Joseph Boakai. Therefore, whatever ideas I have, whether I'm trying to volunteer for my country, was just trashed. So we're still waiting. And I keep telling them, whenever people reach out to me, whenever my country calls me, now, I'm not going to quit my job in America. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to be deputy minister in Liberia. I don't want that. I'm going to always work here. But to the extent that my country calls on me, I'll be willing to take my vacation time and go home and help my country. Because at the end of the day, I still got family and friends in Liberia. At the end of the day, people still identify me as being from Liberia. So I have to ensure that I can help my country with whatever I've learned on these shows.
If you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia, and that's a voluntary service being offered by Mr. Sisi Goya right here on Focus on Liberia to use his own vacation time. All he wants from his country is an economic ticket so that he can help rewrite the curriculum and do other things in our educational sector that former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf declared immense. And when the new president came to power, he wanted some 6,000 experts from Nigeria to do. And here we have a fellow Liberian or Liberian American offering to do just that. Before Diane comes in again, what I really want to see is you guys, we have the same background. Liberians, we are here in the States, and most of the time, we want to go back home to help. And because of that, sometimes we don't really plant our feet in this country the way we should. If any of you read my Facebook post, I said, bloom wherever you are planted. That's a saying. So while we are here, what can we do? And the two of you and others are running for office, something that most of us, have not been able to do. What is it that you know that we don't know that kind of propel you to take this, this kind of challenge? I know we have another Liberian American mayor in Montana, and other people are running, but a lot of us don't run for elected offices. What is it that Mr. Russell knows that I don't know that make me not to run, and he's running? Mr. Russell.
I don't know about the system or anything. No, I mean, for me, I'm just somebody who has always tried to be a part of the solution. And I'm someone who doesn't take no for an answer. If this person can do it, I can do it too. For me, I just come natural. It's unfortunate because Liberians, for example, in Minnesota, we're some of the earliest group of Africans to arrive in these parts. We came here back in the 50s when LAMCO was still in operation in Nimba County, County. LAMCO has sent a number of people here to do technical training because, as you know, Minnesota is a mining state up north. We have a lot of mining operations here. So a number of Liberians came here to learn mining operation, went to school at Dunwoody Technical Institute and the University of Minnesota, and a few of them stayed. So we've had a Liberian community here. It's not as large as it is now, but we've had a Liberian presence here since the 50s. So why we have not gone into mainstream politics and gone, when you have other groups that have been here maybe in the last 10, 20 years, and they were going on to Congress, they were doing bigger and better things. We have not been able to do that. So, I mean, it's just a matter of stepping forward. And sometimes you really don't know. I mean, we make this assumption. I think some of us just make this assumption that, oh, they may not, embrace me, or they may not accept me, and we feel sort of insecure, maybe because of our accent, or maybe because of where I'm from, and all of that. So we just naturally think that, we.
Same question, Mr. Goya. And what would be, on top of that, what would be your advice for Liberians?
Well, I think I'm going to go with Brother Russell on that. I don't think there is some unique fraternity idea that I had to go to some, to join some fraternity or some order to understand what it is. But I'm going to piggyback off of what you said. Blossom where you were planted. And I think for those Liberians or those immigrants that are not taking advantage of being able to put themselves out there, I think they're doing a disservice to this nation that's offered them an opportunity to be who they are, and they're also doing a disservice to their kids and then their community, because if a generation does not choose to be the one that set the standards, then it become a cycle where every other generation that comes goes, well, nobody did it before, so I'm never going to put my neck out there because nobody's done it before. So I think it's about time that immigrants and Liberians that are qualified step out. We have to get outside of our comfort zone. But I think this thing is also psychological, because when you think about our own political system back in Liberia, most time people will say, leave the people think. And then people think you can bring here. And every time people want to avoid a conversation, they usually term it as politics. You don't bring your politics here, and then that's their way of sidestepping an issue. That's the way of sidestepping an uncomfortable conversation. But I would just tell people, if you're in any country, regardless where you are, if it's America, and you have that qualification, do not rob your community of access to your qualification. And that's one of the reasons I chose to run. Because I felt like I have something that my community can benefit from. And my community being also a school district, that all people can see something that I have that I'm willing to bring to the table to help all of us grow. So at the end of the day, for those people who usually sit on the sidelines, I would say, this is a fun experience. Getting out there, volunteering yourself to work for community is a fun experience. And I don't think we should shortchange our community. This great nation, for me, took a chance on me when I came to this country as a citizen of another country, and allowed me student loans, gave me student loans to go to school to better myself. So I think the only way I can pay this great nation back is not to hoard my intelligence. It's not to go sit in my corner and complain and have solutions, but I keep them. And the only time I talk about it is if I have one bottle of stock, right? I don't want to do that, because by doing that, it's almost like it reminds me of the story in the Bible where this rich man give out money or talents to his servants, and the other one went and buried it, right? I don't want to bury my talents, because this nation took a chance on me. And even and like I keep telling people, God forbid if we lose, I will still be glad. I will be happy that I came out, that I spoke out, that I brought ideas to the table, that I inspire somebody, that I inspire kids that are willing to get out there and door knock for me, that I inspire elderly people that can get out, like that 82-year-old lady that can go and door knock for me, that I inspire LGBTQ kids to come out and go, Mr. Goya, I'm happy that you're running because you speak to my issues, that I inspire Muslim kids, that I inspire rich white kids, Latino kids, Native Americans to come out and say, look, I see my kids in the issues you're discussing. So at the end of the day, I would tell my people, man, step out of your comfort zone. It's not as bad as you imagine it to be. Have conversation with folks. Put yourself out there because you have talents that the world needs. Do not bury your talents, because then you'll be shortchanging all of humanity.
Well, thank you guys both for joining us. Mr. Goya, what are your final comments?
So my final comments are Newton's first law of motion is called inertia. It says an object in motion will continue to travel in a straight line in motion, and an object at rest will remain at rest unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. And I'm asking everybody who's watching this that can vote in Osceola School District to be that unbalanced force that will come out to vote to change the trajectory of Osceola School District for all of our kids. If you value culturally relevant pedagogy, if you value closing the achievement, the opportunity, and the exposure gap, if you value school safety for all of our kids, be that unbalanced vote. Come out and vote. Be that unbalanced force that change our trajectory. Be that unbalanced force that make us move from where we've become so comfortable. We've become so comfortable with having an achievement gap. And I say that is unacceptable. So I'm asking people who can see me, who can hear me, to remember Newton's first law of motion, that we need your vote to be that unbalanced force for our kids. Because at the end of the day, it takes a village to educate a child, and I need you to be that village. You can find out more about me by going to czgoya.com, by following us on Facebook, because at the end of the day, all we are asking is that you give a true, tried, tested, and talented educator the chance to be on a board of education to make some sense for all of our kids throughout the district, regardless of what zip code they come from. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Russell, what are your final comments tonight?
Well, just like to first say thanks to you, Ms. Knuckles and Mr. Ja for this opportunity to come and talk to folks, to talk to our people. We don't always get this opportunity, so it's great. I'm very grateful. And the thing is that a lot of people have embraced our candidacy for representation, because we know that, and they all know too, that it's way past time. And as we always say that, and what they have seen too, is that we all do well when we all do well. So I mean, we have stepped forward. It's not an easy thing. It may be fun in some respect, but it takes a lot of courage to go out there and do what we do. And all of that. So, I mean, the least we can expect is for people to show support, show some love, and help us out as best as we can. We're not going to be there working for our kids or our brothers or our sisters. We're going to be there because the system here doesn't work like that. We're going to be there working for the people, for masses of the people. So my final thought are that we show up to vote, because at the end of the day, all of what we're doing would not matter if we don't show up. And let's show Minnesota that we have the numbers and we can make a difference, and we are going to make a difference. And we are going to be there to support our own, and not just a matter of us being, Black candidates or Liberian immigrants or whatever, but we are candidates who have been tested, who have the track record, who have the experience, who have the wherewithal to make a difference. And so we call in on all of our people to step forward, to show their support by voting. Just the fact that you're in America, you have a BMW or you have a Toyota or whatever, or you have a house or an apartment, and some folks feel that, well, I have arrived. No, you have not arrived yet. There is still a lot to accomplish. There's still a lot to do, and we can rely on your support to empower us to make a difference. So you can go to my website. It's winfredrussell.com. That's WYNFRED Winfred Russell, one word, RUSSELL.com. And to learn more about my candidacy, please show up on November 6th to vote. If you need a ride, please call me at 612-283-1859 is the number you can call to get a ride to go to vote. So this has been a wonderful opportunity and a wonderful experience. Enjoy the questions, and look forward to doing more of this and trying to educate our people and letting them know the importance of why we need representation, why we need to be at the table, because as we know, in March, DED expiration is coming up. DED, our immigration situation is very dire. Many of our folks may be sent back home. So we need to start engaging our people. We need to start engaging our leaders. We need to be at this table and have the influence to connect with some of the folks who are going to make the decision that's going to affect all of our people. So we need to be there, but we want to be there. We have stepped forward and said that we want to serve the community, but the only way we can accomplish that if you all show up on Tuesday to vote. You have to vote. Thank you, and God bless you, and thanks to all of the candidates who are running. My brother Zizi Goya, who's been here with me tonight. My other brother Michael Elliott from Brooklyn Central, who's running for mayor. And our dear sister, Miamon Quickly, who is running for one of 3 seats on the ASIO school board. So those are all of your candidates. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Again, thanks to both of you for joining us tonight. We wish you both the best of luck on Tuesday night. Yeah, so you've put in the work, and so I hope you get to see the benefits of all the doors that you've knocked on, the time that you've put in. So thank you for, taking the brave step to put yourself out there and to run for office. That win or lose, that in itself is an accomplishment. It's tough. So thank you guys. I also want to encourage everyone to go out on Tuesday and vote. We think that our votes don't matter, but they do. Who we put, whether it be city council or governor or mayor or our representatives, it affects us. They vote on things like immigration laws, and they are the ones who, can try to help or stop whatever the president is doing. So it is very important. Please go out and vote. Also, in this time where we talk a lot about sexual abuse and women's rights, I also want to encourage my voters in Georgia to vote for amendment number 4 on our ballot, also known as Marcy's Law, which alerts victims when their perpetrators are being released from prison or up for parole or probation, or anytime that they'll be in court again. So that's also just my plea. But once again, thanks everyone for joining. I also want to encourage all the viewers to please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are streaming live today on YouTube. And sometimes we'll do that and then stream it live again later on Facebook. But please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Focus on Liberia, and also like our Focus on Liberia page on Facebook as well. So thank you again, and back to you, Dennis.
Until next time, my name is Dennis Jha, along with my co-host, Danielle Nogos-Gashad, our product engineer, Stephanie Cetro. We all say thank you so much for watching, and thanks to our guests, to our audience. Until next time, we say good night and God bless you.